Okay, let's get real. Last week we talked about my 47K debt mountain, but today we're talking about the only thing that actually lets me sleep at night, my escape fund. TikTok calls it an emergency fund. I call it my escape fund. Because when your boss asks you to work until 10 p.m. on a Friday for the third week in a row, or your car makes that specific rattling sound, you don't want to be thinking, how will I pay rent? You want to be thinking, I have an escape plan. So let me rewind a little. Because I didn't just decide to build an escape fund out of nowhere. I learned the hard way. 6 months after graduating, I was working a job I genuinely hated. My manager was one of those people who CC'd your entire team on passive aggressive emails. You know the type. But every single time I thought about quitting, I'd open my bank app, see my balance, and just stay. Because I had no cushion. Zero. I was living paycheck to paycheck and telling myself that was totally normal. And then my car broke down. $900 repair bill. I had 740 in my account. I had to call my mom and ask her to cover the difference. That was the most humiliating phone call of my life. Not because my mom judged me, she didn't, but because I realized I had no escape route. I was completely stuck. That week, I started researching, and that's when I discovered the concept that changed everything for me. The idea that savings isn't just about money, it's about buying back your own choices. The old advice was to save $1,000 and then start investing. But guys, it's 2026. A $1,000 emergency fund is just one check engine light away from being $0. I checked. The average rent for a studio in this city is $400. The average car repair is between $500 and $1,200. A single ER visit without full insurance coverage? We don't even want to go there. If I lose my job today, $1,000 doesn't even cover my front door. That's not an escape plan A, that's a false sense of security. And a false sense of security is sometimes more dangerous than knowing you have nothing because it stops you from taking action. Okay, I wanted to share 3 real situations, names changed. Obviously, that show exactly why the escape fund matters. These are people from my own life. Maya works in marketing. She had $1,200 saved and felt pretty good about it. Then her landlord raised her rent by $300 a month with 60 days' notice. She had 2 months to either find a new place, negotiate, or absorb the cost. Because she only had $1,200, she couldn't afford a deposit on a new apartment and cover the gap months. One unexpected change wiped out her options entirely. James is a freelancer, a graphic designer. He had no emergency fund because he figured his income was usually pretty stable. One of his biggest clients went silent for 3 months. A ghosted him completely. No income for 90 days. He went into credit card debt just to cover groceries and utilities. It took him 18 months to dig out of that hole. 18 months of stress, all because of a 90-day gap. Now, Priya, this one is the good story. Priya had been quietly building her escape fund for 8 months, just $200 a month, when her toxic workplace became genuinely unbearable. She did the math, gave her notice, and took 6 weeks off to job hunt properly. She landed a role paying 12K more per year. That escape fund didn't just save her it upgraded her life. 3 people, 3 very different outcomes. The difference? Options. The escape fund gives you options. All right, let's get into the actual strategy. Here's the Chloe method for 2026. We aren't just saving we're parking our money where it works for us. Step 1, the starter goal. 1 full month of bare bones expenses, not your going out budget, just rent, ramen, and the Wi Fi bill. That's your first escape hatch. For me, that number is $1,650. Step 2, the HYSA Hack. Stop keeping this in your regular checking account. My big bank was giving me 0.01% interest. I moved it to a high yield savings account, and I'm now earning 4.5%. On $5,000, that's $225 a year just for parking your money in the right place. That's a utility bill for doing absolutely nothing. Step 3, the rule of 3. Once that first month is funded, We aim for 3 months. That is the magic number where your money anxiety starts to actually evaporate, because you know you have a real escape route. Step 4, the stretch goal, 6 months. Not there yet, but 6 months is where you go from I'll be okay to I can genuinely afford to be selective about my life. Okay, so how do you actually get there? Because saying save 3 months of expenses is easy. Doing it on an entry level salary is a whole other thing. So I built a 90-day challenge that I actually used myself. Week 1 and 2, the audit. Go through every single subscription and recurring charge. Cancel anything you haven't used in 30 days. Average person finds between $40 and $80 here. Week 3 and 4, the no spend weekend challenge. 2 weekends a month, spend $0 on non essentials. Cook at home, free activities only. Bank everything you would have spent. Month 2, the roundup and transfer habit. Every Monday morning, round your checking balance down to the nearest $100 and transfer the difference to your HYSA. Month 3, the income boost. Sprint, 1 month of actively looking for a side income. Every single dollar goes straight to the escape fund. I went from $0 to $1,800 in 90 days doing exactly this. It's not glamorous, but it works. Now let's talk about the mistakes, because I made most of these, and I see them constantly in the comments. Mistake 1, if your escape fund is in the same account you use for groceries and takeout, it will get spent. Separate account. Different bank if you have to. Mistake 2, someone calculates their 3-month number, sees $7,000, and gives up before they start. Begin with 1 week of expenses. Progress is progress. Mistake 3, if you have no emergency fund and put everything into investments, one bad month means selling at a loss or going into debt. The escape fund comes first. Mistake 4, your bare bones expenses at 22. Living with roommates are very different from your expenses at 25 living alone. Revisit your target every 6 months. All right, let's have the conversation everyone argues about in the comments. Should you invest instead of saving? The math people will tell you, if you put $5,000 in an index fund instead of a HYSA, you'd earn more over time. And they're right in theory. Average stock market return is around 7 to 10% annually versus 4.5% in a HYSA. But investments are not liquid in a crisis. If the market is down 20% the week your car breaks down, you either sell at a loss or you go into debt. Your escape fund has one job: to be there, reliably, exactly when you need it. Boring, stable, accessible. Investing is for building wealth. The escape fund is for protecting your life. You need both, but you need the escape fund first. Okay, real talk. What happens when you actually have to use your escape fund? Because it will happen. That's literally what it's for. When I had to dip into mine for a $400 urgent dental bill last year. Not a fun Tuesday. I felt genuinely defeated, like I'd failed. But here's the reframe I needed. That moment was not a failure. That was the entire point. I paid for an emergency in cash without going into debt, without calling anyone to bail me out. The fund did its job. The only rule after you dip in: replenishment comes before everything else non-essential. Set a small automatic transfer back into the account, even $50 a week. And here's something nobody talks about. The second time you rebuild it is always faster because you already know how. The hardest part of starting is already done. I had to use loud budgeting this weekend. My friends wanted to go to that new rooftop bar for $22 cocktails. I said, no thanks. I told them, I'm currently building my escape fund, so I'm doing a bring your own beverage park hangout instead. Was it awkward? For like 2 seconds. But you know what feels better than a $22 martini? Knowing that if my laptop dies tomorrow, I can replace it in cash. Knowing that if my job becomes unbearable, I have a runway. That's what having an escape route actually feels like. Comment, escape below, and I'll send you the calculator I use to figure out my exact 3-month number. Next week, we will discuss why cheap is expensive. I'm Chloe. Keep figuring it out. See you next week.